The cities of Kelso and Longview in Cowlitz County, Washington, straddle the confluence of the Cowlitz and Columbia rivers. Chosen for their prime real estate, the two cities both developed robust industrial areas along their waterfronts.
Clearly, the first exposure with railroads here was Kelso with the Northern Pacific in the 1870s. And then you fast forward to 1923, roughly, and on the Longview side, the west side of the Cowlitz River, and Long Bell came in, built this huge mill here.
Shingle mills sprang up all along the Cowlitz River from the late 1800s through 1923, a key date in the region's history.
At that time, the Long Bell Lumber Company came in and started developing the west side of the Cowlitz River and the Columbia River, and they started building their own export docks on the Columbia.
Well, the freight clearly that comes off these huge ocean-going vessels requires large tonnage, and so railroads are, of course, the primary carrier, although trucks involved also. But yeah, it was mainly to service first the mills and then the port, and it grew, as you know.
Jim Elliott and Bill Watson probably know more about the area's history than anyone else in the state. After all, they've both spent the bulk of their lives here.
Well, I was born and raised here. My father operated the paper mill's locomotives from late 1930s till he retired in 1971. He operated 2 steams and 2 diesels.
Railroad tracks connecting the mills were the first signs of an emerging industrial area along the waterfront. But
the railroads aren't an end to themselves. They're there to serve the other industries.
Industries like timber, mining, and fishing.
The railroads opened up, pretty much everywhere as a market for lumber and everything, well, including the fish early on. The railroads facilitated a huge growth in the forest products business here.
And then just a couple years later, Longview Fiber was founded, and so there was pulp and paper on the waterfront close to the mouth of the Cowlitz. And then Weyerhaeuser came in 1929, and another huge lumber mill. And then in 1941, Reynolds Aluminum built their site on the Columbia River.
But despite Kelso and Longview owing their historical survival to the industrial waterfront, as times change, so do community priorities.
As industry evolves, the transportation is going to change. The companies are much more reliant on truck traffic now instead of rail. And so the transportation situation's going to have to change.
More and more rail lines and industrial properties are being replaced by walking trails and neighborhood parks. And as the Kelso and Longview waterfront continues to evolve, Jim and Bill just hope it reaches a balance from which everyone can benefit.
Kelso's probably going to keep going with more recreation opportunities on their waterfront, and Longview will probably get some more recreation opportunities on their waterfront as some of the industries consolidate, and hopefully the industry will keep going strong enough to keep the community strong.